It's recording. Welcome to our Thursday morning Facebook Live. We have a very special guest today, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Joanne Sharpe. So Joanne, I have known Joanne for a few years now, although I've been aware of her work for a very long time. I have several of her books, and I've been following her work for a very long time. So I'm but I'm going to let her introduce herself and explain a little bit about her journey, how she got to where she is today. So let me introduce to you, let me bring on screen. Here I go. Oh, Joanne Sharpe, welcome. I'm so glad you're with us.
Morning.
Morning. Where are you right now?
I am in upstate New York, and it feels like big time spring today. It's probably already in the 60s, going to be in the 70s. So it's a happy day, no snow.
Oh, it looks happy actually. Your studio behind you looks happy. I love I love the yellow walls and all the artwork. So yeah.
My happy place.
Yeah, great. That's excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to come chat with us. And most people, I think, already know you. But for those folks who don't know you, could you just give us a tiny bit of history as to what your background is and how you got to where you are today, which is like a well-known, incredible artist. So,
well, I'm one of those people that knows that this is what I was born to be. And I do have a degree in art education, and I taught art for 20 years. And then I just decided to get my own little studio, and then I started writing for a magazine and started going on the road teaching. But I think where I got the idea that I'm an artist, I had an uncle who was a sales rep for an art supply company in New York City. And when I was 11 years old, he used to give me his samples. So here I was 11 years old painting with, $85 paintbrushes, and I had a little box and all the paint.
wow.
And, as growing up, everybody said, "Oh, Joanne, you're the artist, you're the artist, you're the artist." So I think that's how it all became to be. And I haven't stopped arting since. So
that's so interesting. Yeah. It's like your uncle sparked something in you.
He did.
Not many 11-year-olds get to play with such expensive art supplies.
It was ridiculous. And it's like, I wish, 11 years old, I wish I could find those brushes now, but I'm sure they're long gone.
That's really interesting. So how many years did you teach in public education?
Yes, I taught K through 12 for 20 years, here and there, usually just because like the schedules changed and I, switched schools and then I taught in a facility for emotionally disturbed kids, and that was like the best job ever. They loved art. And then started teaching adults the past 15 years. So, and I'll tell you what, it's harder to teach adults than it is to teach kids.
Yes, I can. That's a kind of actually, that's interesting you say that. What difference do you see?
Oh, definitely the hesitation and the apprehension and it's like, I asked one of my friends yesterday, we're having lunch tomorrow, we were talking about watercolor, and I said, "Do you want to do watercolor?" And she goes, "Oh, no, I would do it wrong." And I was like, you can't do it wrong. So I have adopted the theory of you can't do it wrong. And that's why you don't see me painting portraits or landscapes or realism. I love to play with the paint and shapes and color. And that's, I teach my people to kind of channel their inner second grade art girl. And that is because when you are in first grade, or when you're in kindergarten and first grade, you don't have very many skills. You're excited and you'll do anything, but you don't have very many skills. Then when you're in third grade and fourth grade, you start getting an attitude and social, and you worry about what other people think. But then think about second grade. Second grade was my favorite age to teach, because they were just jumping around and they did whatever I told them to do. And it was that was the best uninhabited person to take art and do art. That's second grade art girl.
So you're telling me, so we have to channel our inner second grader. How old is
Mhm.
second grade? Like 7 and 8, right?
7 and 8. And let me tell you
Yeah.
something fun about that.
Mm,
Yesterday we have the ring on our door, and
mm,
the ring rang, and I thought it was a package, of course,
of
and it
course.
wasn't. It was these little girls, and they were probably, I think they're second and third grade neighbors, and
Yep.
they were walking down the driveway with this bag and walking away from my house, and I said, "Hi, girls," and they're like, "We just left you flowers." And daffodils are in full bloom here right now, and every house is just, saturated with daffodils. So they like were going around house to house with their bag, and they just laid down like 8 daffodils at my front door, and I said, "Hi,
Oh,
girls," and they're like, "We just left you flowers," and it was like that was so precious. They didn't care who we were, they're like, "I just
yeah.
giving flowers for our neighbors." So
We're just
that's
open and
yeah, that's the attitude. That's the, you know what? Just
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the minute you start worrying what people think and, fearing other people's judgment, your own judgment. I think that's where,
Right,
and the
right,
fear of
right.
mistakes. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, it's human, but it's hard when you're trying to be creative and always being afraid of mistakes.
Of course, and
Interesting.
yeah.
So tell me what magazine you started writing for. I'm curious, or was it just several different
Yeah, it
magazines?
was, cloth, paper, scissors, the
Yeah.
stamping tin
Yeah.
publications, and um,
Yeah.
just the art magazines that,
The regular art magazine.
some of them aren't even around anymore, which is sad, but
No, no,
um,
no cloth, paper, scissors anymore, which is
no,
too bad.
no.
Mm.
And it was
Okay.
funny because that was when I started doing some of the lettering,
Yeah.
when no one was doing lettering like what I did, and it
Mm.
just it's a boom now. And I was very, very fortunate to be like, you know, not a pioneer, but I was just
Yeah.
I teach people how to use your own handwriting and
Yep.
be creative with words. I don't teach calligraphy, I don't teach brush lettering.
Right.
So I kind of like to draw everything
Mm.
out of a person. So
So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that. I'm kind of curious because you've said that to me a couple of times before. I don't teach calligraphy. I teach people how to work with their own handwriting. Like, talk to me a little bit about the distinction there and why that's important to you.
oh, that's huge. Well, when you have calligraphy, you have to
Mhm.
do this. You have to do it all, in a certain way.
Mhm.
There's a method, and there's
Yeah.
a visual that is always consistent.
Sure.
Where my lettering is, just all over the place, and
Yeah.
negative space, and big bold letters, and using black and using color.
Yeah.
So it's just taking your handwriting, and I have a couple of techniques that I teach all the time,
Mm.
and those of you who take those classes, you know what I'm talking about. Thicket, just to thicken up your handwriting, and just kind of I
Mm.
draw letters. And so
So it
it's
gives you more
really,
freedom.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's not, you can't do it wrong. What I teach, you
Mm.
can't do it wrong. You just can't, ever. Ever
Interesting.
with anything. Yeah.
So that kind of plays into there are no mistakes
Correct.
and try not to be afraid because there are no rules to break. So
Right.
can't make
Right.
mistakes.
That's right.
Interesting. So tell me how so as when I first kind of became aware of you, it was through cloth, paper, scissors, but I know you published a couple books, um, and then you were doing a lot of teaching at different retreats. Like, which were they both at the same time, or did one come before the other?
Well, I wrote the first book I wrote was in 2013,
Hmm.
and then I wrote 5 altogether up until, maybe 2 years ago.
Mm.
But the teaching was when many of us were on the road. We are going to stores and shops that taught art and scrapbooking, and sadly, so many of those are gone.
Yeah.
And then there are some national retreats that we did all over the place, and
Mm.
I miss it terribly. I really, really do. Although I have kind of learned to, adjust my business to this, and
Hmm.
I love it, because it's like, you guys, you don't see my surroundings. I didn't have to pack anything. I just went in my studio, grabbed a couple of things, and
Yeah.
it was good to go. But I haven't been on a plane since February of 2020, and like,
Yeah.
how, or staying in a hotel, how could I be missing that? Because
Yeah.
I would travel every 3 weeks. I would be on a plane and in a hotel. So I
I find
miss
it
it.
interesting that you keep saying we. Is it because you're with the same people?
Yes, it's the community, and you are in that community as well. Those of
Mm.
us who, reach out and share what we do and teach what we do. Um,
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
said, I know I was born to be, an art teacher,
yeah.
and I'll tell you why, because many of you have heard this story, but when I was a senior in high school, getting ready to go to college, I told my dad. I was the oldest of 7 kids. So of course
Wow.
I'm like the experiment and everything's got to be perfect. So I said to my dad, I want to go to school to be a social worker. And he's like, no, you're not going to be a social worker. I was like, what? And he goes,
What?
you're going to go to school and be an artist. I said, what? Dad, come on. How am I going to make money being an artist? And, he said, you know what? All right, well then be an art teacher, because then you can get paid for, for doing your artwork. So it was my dad who, 40, I hate to say how old I am, but
You
40
know.
years ago, who said, no, no. So, you can still help people. And,
Yeah.
over the years, I know that the art that I teach and the
Mm.
skills that I bring people do help. They do
It's
help.
therapy. It's
Yeah,
art therapy.
totally. Absolutely. So my
That's
dad steered
fascinating.
me correct. And then my son, who is 32, went to the same college. He's an art teacher, and he's been an art teacher for about 6 years. And
Wow.
he went to the same college, graduated exactly 30 years after me. And I never even knew that was his dream. I mean, he loved
Really?
art, but who knew, but I didn't discourage him,
Yeah.
but my husband's like, why do you want to be an art teacher? Look at your
You
mother.
get a good role model. That's why.
So yeah, it's a lot of stories.
That's so, but honestly, it's fascinating because, of course, most of us who haven't heard that story would have assumed your dad would have said, we assume the story would be you told your dad you wanted to be an artist, and he was like, oh no, you can't do that. You should be a social worker, not the other way around. It's so unusual.
And my dad was really, really creative, like with
Mm.
writing, and he was the communications director for Xerox. That's how we ended up in Rochester.
Wow, okay.
And my mom was real artsy. So with the two of them,
Yeah.
but my dad was very creative. And I think that's where
Mm.
the creative
Hmm.
mindset comes from. So
Nice. Well, you passed it on to your son, so that's
yeah,
amazing.
it's cool.
Well, so it's let's just take a couple steps back. Would you say that you're missing the in-person, interaction of teaching? Talk to me a little bit about the pandemic and sort of how it affected your creativity personally. For a lot of people, it kind of went one of two ways. You either really kind of dried up because of all the anxiety and worry, or some people became very prolific, or some combination of the two. So how did it affect you personally? And then we'll talk about your business.
Well, again, it was just like, you saw the whole rug pulled out from under you. Like, I was like, oh, I'm okay. And my business doesn't have to close. And then I thought, yeah, because I had to cancel,
Mm.
my annual retreat, and I had a whole bunch of, visits on the books, and
Yeah.
nobody was doing anything, and it was the same even this year. I
Yeah.
had a retreat plan for 2019 that I do every year in Florida,
Yep.
and that had to be canceled. And then this year, wait, it was 2020, that had to be canceled for 2020. And then
Yep.
2021, we're like, nah, we better wait till next year. So that had to be canceled twice. So
Wow.
it did feel like the rug was pulled out from under you. And so it was,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
I,
that's
yeah.
so but you were teaching online beforehand though. That
Yes,
needs to
I
be
have been
clear.
teaching online since
Mm.
2011.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think like many of us, you pivoted somewhat in 2020. And I really respect the decision you made to make this ArtSparks class available. I mean, and I took several of them.
You know,
Just
I loved
because
when I saw you taking them. Like, oh, what are you
I get intimidated sometimes when someone like signs up for my my membership. I'm like, oh no, they're so much better than I am. But
But I
you can't
love
think like that.
but I'm all about your club. I love being in that club, and
I know you do.
I'll explain why, but it's like that mutual admiration society.
It's
So,
kind of fun. It is fun. Also, you kind of learn a lot from each other, I think.
oh,
I certainly
absolutely.
learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot from you. But so for folks who don't know, can you just explain? Actually, this might be a really good time now to switch down the camera for you to explain a little bit about what ArtSparks is, how it came about, and why
will.
you decided to switch it.
All right.
I'm
Oh,
gonna-
there we are. Where's the, okay, here's the Sparks. Here's the Sparks book.
There's the sparks.
Yes. So okay, so as this, started to become a reality, like we're all stuck at home, and it was like, you know what, this is happy. This will change our, just make us happy. I do happy art. Again, I will never teach you how to do a face because I can't even do faces, but I do work with lots and lots of doodles, lots of color, line and embellishing, just embellishing patches of color. And so what happened with ArtSparks is so many of my friends were, giving away free classes. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's my livelihood. So I decided to gift my audience, and I've created 6 ArtSparks classes that are $14. And I sound like a salesperson, $14.95 a piece. And they're full classes. They are, they have 10 lessons, and I do watercolor, words. You can go to my website on the homepage, and it's the homepage. So you just scroll down, you see little videos. Every video has a link to a registration. And this is what I've been teaching in the past year. And I didn't raise that price of $14.95 because I wanted it to be a gift. I wanted, this to bring joy and, let people, experience some watercolor, some doodling, because this is the kind of stuff, if I take this little tiny book here and, I sit on my couch, I can start filling these little books, with words and, make them all different sizes. Look at how cute.
So cute.
Micro mantras. This looks
Oh,
like, and it just
I
little
need one of
tiny,
those.
little tiny, like, with your mantras and the things, that see it, believe it, achieve it, this is actually, I haven't looked at this in a while, but I think I have this giant box of of these little books, and it was like, whoa, there's got to be like 30 of them, all different sizes, all but within the same style. They're all, they're all the doodle, the black and white, the lettering, and all watercolor and a little paint marker, and a lot of black pen work. So that's what ArtSparks. So basically it was like a gift. um I just wanted something really, really special to share with everyone, and we've been having a ball. And it's also an opportunity to see how I teach, and the community that I have. I could wave to all of you that are in there right now, in the chat, and I know you're there, and I know they're so supportive, they're so generous with their time and their sharing, and we learn so much from each other. So
Yeah, absolutely. I would say 100%. I think I learn more from my community than I teach them, to be honest. So
I agree.
yeah, these are amazing. Tell me, I'm curious, what kind of paper do you like to use for your little books?
Mostly it is, it's Canson, because as I'm teaching people who are, maybe they're hobby artists, they're all artists, you're all artists, okay, if they're listening. And so this is that Canson watercolor paper that I like, and then Fabriano, of course. And, when some of my newbies see my, excuse me, see my Fabriano, they're like, oh my God, it's $7 a sheet. And you know what? But there's nothing like, excuse me, there's nothing like the good paper, the way it takes watercolor. So really, those are always my 2 go-to, is the Canson, Canson, cold press. And I always like cold press because it just gives the watercolor texture. And so those are basically, or Strathmore. I teach the students to use Strathmore with the yellow pad, until they're comfortable with putting some paint down on the expensive paper.
That's really interesting, actually. I think it's great to show your students a variety of kind of price points, because art supplies can get really expensive. So,
Oh, for sure.
how about like just because I'm an art supply junkie. There is a particular brand of paint you like, because I know people are going to want to know that, or do you just encourage people to use anything?
Okay, I talk about a junkie. I am a Daniel, excuse me, a Daniel Smith junkie, and here's my palette right here. I use Daniel Smith paints. I have for years, and that again is I am working on an intro watercolor class, so that's going to be coming in the next couple months. But I start my students out with Daniel Smith paints, and because they are, first of all, made in the U.S., they're a Seattle-based company. The pigments are stunning. And if you're looking at all these colors, this is all Daniel Smith paint. And it's funny because people say, "Oh, I can't I can't get the colors that you use." And then I said, well, "What kind of paint are you using?" And they're like, "Well, I got this nice set from Michael's." And I am a snob. I am a total snob. And I was like, "Okay, that's great. That's great to start." But the thing about using a subpar paint is usually there's more filler than there is pigment in those paints. Where Daniel Smith paints, and Daniel Smith or Schminke or Winsor Newton, some of the artist grade paints, like, they're just very, very, they're rich, and there's more pigment than there is filler. So, that's why I suggest, because, when you take a class, you're like, I want to paint just like this. I want to do just like this. And the way they're going to get that. And the thing is, when there are little tiny tubes of Daniel Smith or Winsor Newton or any of those artist brands. You can get smaller tubes, a 5 milliliter tube, just to try it. And you just need to try maybe 5 or 6 colors. And then, oh my gosh, then, there are worse things, but it becomes quite an addiction to have a lot of colors. So there's my yummy palette, and this is my right here. This is my favorite color. It's called quinacridone rose, and I use it up constantly. And I keep telling my classes, I really need to refill that. I really need to refill that. So that's one of my favorite, quinacridone. What I say, rose, quinacridone rose. So that's like that nice pink that you see in here, and then the orange and the yellow and the turquoise. So
Wow,
that's
great, thank you.
paint snob. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
a paint snob.
no, you could be a paint snob, but I think maybe but would you suggest folks could just buy like 3 colors and mix them themselves, or do you recommend, do you have like a basic well, I'm sure in your beginner class you would tell people what some basic
Well,
colors are to
yeah,
start.
that's a great suggestion, because really you need like a red, a blue, and yellow, the primaries, because you can mix the secondaries, you can go across the whole color wheel and get tons and tons of colors. But then again, you could use the quinacridone rose, which is a red. You could use an ultramarine blue, which is a blue. And then my other favorite color, here's another I'll show you, that's pretty much eaten up all here, is green gold. So what I have, and yellow, I have a Hansa yellow. So you would have the 3 primaries, but then I would always throw in this green gold, because it's a yellowy green, and it's, this is that bright green. All this is green gold, the color green gold. So that's what I would suggest.
Well, thank you. I have a question actually from folks in the UK. Would you suggest Winsor Newton for folks who are in the UK if
Oh,
they
for
can't get
sure.
Daniel Smith?
Absolutely. And the only reason I don't like teach with, I paint a lot myself in my journals with Winsor Newton paints. They're delicious. They're very, very finely milled. They're really beautiful, but I don't teach with them because I've pushed the Daniel Smith on people so much. I don't want them to think they have to come up with a whole brand new palette. But Winsor Newton, I would say my in order of my my love for watercolor paints, it would be Daniel Smith and Schminke, which is a German brand, Schminke, Schminke, and then Winsor Newton. So those are the 3 brands that I love. And you start out small. You don't have to start out with 50 colors. But as you grow and as you learn and you become more confident in your skills, you know, you would kind of elevate your paints. So
Okay, well, thank you. That's actually really helpful because I bet you probably get asked those questions all the time. So I believe that you might be doing a little demonstration for us. Am I correct?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So listen, while you do that demonstration, I'm not going to talk because every time I talk, I appear up on the screen on Facebook, which is really annoying. So I'm going to zip my mouth while you do this, but I'll let you just get prepped for the demonstration. If folks would like to sort of play along or do this later, what kind of materials do they need?
Okay, so get your watercolors. Even if you have the Michaels brand, that's okay, because I'll show you how to use, your paints very loose. And that's another thing that I say, loose, loose, loose. You got to paint loose. And okay, so I'm going to just, here's a little spray bottle. I always spray my paints. You got to get them moist. You never, ever, ever work with your paints dry right out of your palette, because that will ruin your brushes. And I have here a Princeton Aqua Elite. This is a nice brush to have. And again, I do, let's see here, I do suggest a certain kind of brushes. Now, if you're, this is a brand called Simply Simmons, a number 8 round. I only use round brushes mainly when I'm watercolor painting teaching. So I have the Princeton Aqua Elite, which is a number 10, a Simply Simmons. These brushes, the Simply Simmons, are like around $5, and they're a wonderful, wonderful starter brush. And then, okay, then of course, then the really fancy artist brand is my Escoda. And these are kind of pricey because it has a little bit more natural fiber in it, where these are all synthetic. And all that means is that a synthetic brush holds less water than some of the finer brushes. So, so when I'm doing, let's see, let me just pick something. So this is how I would do. And by the way, I love Allie's Club, because you see all my books are, basically, just pages and, with the simple pamphlet stitch. And I'm like Allie in the book sense, because she looks at my work, I look at hers, and I say, oh my gosh, I can't do that. But I love the ideas. And someday when I am, free to do, something like that, I will get more into, the different stitches and the different bindings. But this is a way to fill your pages. Okay, so I'm sure many of you have shelves full of your beautiful handmade books. And you don't touch them because they're too nice, and you don't put anything in them. But you can just take your pages and use it as a, as a meditation journal, or just a, just stress reliever, or just to put some things on paper. So if I do something like this, okay, by the way, I have 2 jars of water over here. Okay, so I have a clean jar and a dirty jar. And let me just show you that quinacridone rose. I'll show you, it's all eaten up, but this is the quinacridone rose. It's just a beautiful, it's just this purpley kind of pink. Now you see what I'm doing? I'm not painting anything. I am just pressing down on my brush. I'm lifting up. Now I'm going to dip my brush in the water, and I'm going to touch the edge of the paint line with just plain old water. And you see that, and I'm doing this on the Canson paper, by the way. And you see how that paint is kind of flowing into that puddle. And then I might take an orange, and I'll see how I'm pressing down on my brush, and then I'm lifting up, just getting a nice variation of line. And this could be one of the pages, excuse me, that I can just put in my book. I can drag the color up, and again, more water. See how I'm really using a lot of water and letting that paint swim. Those of you who are in my classes, I know you're repeating this. And just to stay, see how loose? That's it. Now this could be a page. This could so be a page. Look at this opera pink. That's another really awesome color. That's that hot pink I use. And let me take you into the green gold, which I love. And he's down here, green gold. And this is Daniel Smith green gold. And the other thing is that a different brand. Look, isn't that the best gold you've ever green you've ever seen? So if you have a different brand, this Daniel Smith, and some of the colors are like they're proprietary mixes, and the Daniel Smith green gold is unlike others. So I have like a green gold by Winsor Newton and Schminke, and it doesn't look anything like this. So you do have to, you know, just kind of practice and just try different things to, you know, to see what color really strikes your fancy. Here's my turquoise, and here's, so see what I'm just playing with color. I'm just touching and letting the brush touch the wet paint, and it's just all swimming into the other color. And rinse off the brush, and let it. By the way, I'm not a morning person. I think that's why my voice is skipping a little bit, but it's okay. I'm so glad to be here this morning. So here is another color, but it's all about rinsing the brush and working with clean water to mix your paint. Because of course, if you use a dirty brush with dirty water, you know, you're going to get that mud. That sometimes the mud is welcome, but most of the time it's not. And here is, and like this would be a page. So this is kind of how, you know, we get this look right here. Now, if you took this class, this is the words and watercolor class. I show you how to make these little tiny books, and how fun would this look with one of your fancy covers that you make in Allie's book club, or the covers that Allie teaches us. So, and then these would be the pages. But all I'm saying is don't be afraid to use those books. Because why did you make them? Why did you make them if you're not going to put anything in them? And even if it's just to play with color, and just to have pages where you can, okay, I heard Ellie say that you're working on, well, we are in the club working with poetry this month. So this is where you can illustrate one of your poems. So I would let this dry and pretend this is a page in one of my books. And then I could do some lettering. And let me show you what I mean about doing my lettering. So here's that color. And here, I'll put it right here so you can still see it. So you be inspired by that. Now, whoops, isn't this fun? That's the only thing about working with virtually is the technology of an old lady. Sometimes it just, you know, you knock the camera. All right, so here is just these pens are from the stationery, or, you know, the office supply store, Uniball. So this Uniball Vision, there's Uniball. I have a whole bunch you can go down the aisle of the Uniball pens, and these are waterproof. They're not very expensive, and you can get, you know, sets of them, and I just love them for my lettering. So let's say I want to just use this, one of my fancy books, for my poetry this month. So another thing I would do is when your pen goes on the paper, it's wet because the ink is not really dry yet. So what I always do as I say, not as I do, is I put a tissue underneath, so I'm not running into the letter and smudging it, because ask me how I know, smudge all the time. So there's the word poetry. So how would I make this kind of fancy? I'm going to show you how you take your own handwriting and you just start transforming your own handwriting with just drawing different strokes. So see how I'm just kind of tracing around the letter. And let's make this, I love to make a curly R. So you see how I'm just doodling and drawing. So here I'm just going to make this letter a little fatter, and then I go back and I start filling in all of the lettering with black. This is like my very, very basic technique that I've used. It's in my whimsical lettering book, and I have a whole bunch of different alphabet books, but this is my go-to kind of lettering. If you go to my Instagram page, you see that I've done a lot of lettering with this particular technique. And it's just because it is, to me, very meditative and it's very simple. I can also start putting patterns into the letters. So you see how I'm just changing it. I could just do little marks over here. And so the letters are, they're changing and they're interesting. And I'll tell you what, this needle, this particular, the Vision needle, you see how juicy that is? That's it. Look, what I tell you? There you go. It's a smudge. Look, there you go. It's on my hand because I wasn't paying attention. That's why I'm live on camera. That's what's hard. But there you go. It's a good lesson because I had my hand here, and it should have been covering the pen work. So there, and I would just this needle pen is very juicy. It's got a nice fine tip, and let's just make this a happy face. A little happy accident. There we go. Just like Bob Ross, a little happy accident. So there's how you would just kind of play with your own handwriting to make your own art lettering. So then I would just take this when it's all dry, because of course this is a page, and I would, I could pencil the word first, and I do in my ArtSparks classes show how to do that technique with a pencil. But that's basically my technique and my process of lettering and watercolor painting, things to put inside your beautiful handmade books. So what do you think, Ellie?
Love it. That's what I think. Thank you. That's on. I'm gonna shall I put it back on your face, or do you want me to keep it on your desk for now? What do you think?
Let me see what else I could show you. Oh, okay. Let me
it's up to you. Because I do have some questions for you as well from folks.
Let me just show you that. Okay, first of all, when we go back to the face, I'm going to show you my big old box of little books. So here is another one of the classes. This one's called Pockets Full of Posies. And this one was really, really fun. This one was something I've been working on for quite a while. It's just, I always cut things out and collage. So this one was just a book on making art flowers and pockets full of posies. And so we just had lots of pockets, and this was like a 2 signature book, but it just give you an idea of, some of the techniques that are in here. A lot of black and white, just to kind of neutralize the wild color that I use all the time. This was just this was a scrap. This actually was. So there's, the flowers and oh my goodness. This was, this is one of my favorite ones. It's just because it's, it just has all these little interactive pieces with vases and texture. And here's a little cellophane pocket that's fun, just with little, I think this was a page protector. So there's just a dimensional edge. Here's some work, here's some writing. The work of art must seize upon you and carry you away. And so just be good vibes. And so this is just one of them where I just show you what else, what the possibilities are. Here's a different color palette. That's not really, it's really funny because when I post something like this on Instagram, people like it, but if I have something like that, that's where I get all the response. So I think I have found my way, as opposed to, trying to come up with, a different style. And to that lesson is stay true to yourself. So while I do love this palette, I love because it's something different, but I can never get away from the really, really super bright colors. So.
Fabulous, thank you. That's an interesting point, actually, about finding your own style. How many, do you think you found your style pretty early on?
Okay, you know how I did when I was an elementary school art teacher. I think that's where it all started because, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. The art department never had a lot of money. And so I had to use construction paper. So I was always creating colorful bulletin boards for kids with bright colors. And, you know, even when I painted things for the bulletin boards, of course, the art teacher always had to do the bulletin boards. I think that's where it started. But I mean, this is who I am. This is so what I'm all about, is just, you know, about the words and the watercolors and the colors. And I try to deviate from it and reinvent myself sometimes. And, you know, I can't, but I can just try different things. And I'm always telling my students, try not to copy what I do, because, you know, painting is not necessarily copy exactly what I do, but I do want you to copy the technique and somehow figure out, that's the challenge, how to make that your own. So
that's really good advice.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Well, why don't we put it back up to your face? So why don't you switch your camera around?
Okay.
And because I have a few questions for you, and I think people would like to see you again.
Of course they would. I was gonna say my COVID hair, usually it's not this long ever. It's usually about this short. That's a lot of COVID, but I do have the vaccine, so now I could probably go and get the roots done too. So.
Oh, lucky you. I wish I did. Let me just ask, actually, you have answered some of the questions, and I just want to let folks know that Mickey is very kindly, she's been writing down the supplies that you mentioned, and so we will make a list available to folks with some links. But I did have a couple questions for you that came up in the comments, and if you want to add to the comments first, we've got a few more minutes, so you can add more questions to the comments.
Wait, first, can I show you? Remember, I was talking about that bucket with books.
Oh wow!
Here they are.
They're all your ArtSparks books.
Yeah, these are all my painted book projects, all my teaching samples. So that when I actually do get to go back on the road, you know, I could tuck some of those into my suitcase and have them for samples. So.
Oh, yay. All right. So the turquoise color you use, I had a few questions about that. Is it a particular one?
Daniel Smith Cobalt Teal.
Okay. Daniel Smith Cobalt Teal. Perfect. You did talk a little bit about it, about the brand of pens you use. Is it always the Uniball?
Yeah, you know, I use microns and Pitt pens, and after a while you have hundreds. I have hundreds of pens, and I just like, okay, just stick with one. And I know, well, of course, you know, that one like just smudged a little bit, but that was a good teaching point to show you that the ink stays wet on the paper. Yeah. And you know, you've got to cover that up. Usually I do cover it up. So
okay, but you just use a waterproof black pen.
Correct.
Essentially. Okay. Yeah. And how about the white? Do you use what brand of white pen do you use? A paint mark?
Yeah, I use the Uniball Signal. Yeah, I like that Uniball. This is this I've used for years. The UM153. Also the Posca. This is an acrylic paint pen. This is what you're seeing a ton of in my books, because this is acrylic paint. And when this works correctly, you got to shake it up. The paint comes out very naturally. There's not really, you should have a pure white color. It should really sit on top of the paint nicely.
Yeah, I love those. So I'm just looking at the questions as they come up. Someone asked, do you ever use metallics, or is that not part of your palette?
Oh gosh, yes, I love metallics, and my favorite brand of metallics is Finetec, Finetec. Finetec. It's a nice. There's all kinds of different colors.
Do you ever use gouache? Someone asked.
Yes, all the time.
All the time.
I'm trying to think where we've used gouache. I think I used the gouache in my year-long class. That might be something that might be one of the new ArtSparks. My goal is really to 10 ArtSparks classes.
Yeah.
And I've been asked to do a basic watercolor class, like for beginners, and
Yep.
that's going to be fun.
Yep.
And then I think gouache should be one of the, maybe gouache flowers or something, because
I
gouache
think
is
so
cool.
too.
Gouache is great. I've used gouache mostly, and I forgot to say that in between teaching and going on the road, I was licensing some of my artwork and designing
Oh,
flags. Unlike Picasso, my artwork hung on the outside of people's homes, not on the inside. So I worked for a company for a really long time designing outdoor flags, and
yeah.
I had to use gouache. I had no computer because this was 15 years ago, and it was all hand done, and it was done in gouache because gouache photographs better than watercolor. So
Oh, interesting. Because it's slightly more opaque.
it's all opaque, correct.
Okay.
And it photographs better.
Okay. So I've just had some comments. Yes, please to the gouache class. People are saying.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Do you ever use Frisket? Someone
Yeah.
asks.
Yep.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
That's the masking fluid, right?
Yep. I've covered that in something. Like I said, people ask me where is this in this class, and I have about 35 classes, so I have to
Oh
sometimes
wow.
go
You forget.
reference where they are, so but
Yeah.
I think the good place to start is to start with some of the ArtSparks,
Yeah.
just to get your, wet your whistle and just get confident and just, get the ideas down.
Yeah, yeah. I would really love to do the pocket of posies one. That's actually kind
Yeah,
of caught
it's
my interest.
cute. And it's $15,
It's cute.
So.
Yeah. All right. Let me just see if there are any other questions. I think I got them all. So, what class? Oh, someone just said, what class should she try first? Well, I think we just answered that.
Yeah, try the words, the words in watercolor, because that's, you're going to get my watercolor ideas, my lettering ideas, some,
Yeah.
doodling ideas. I show the white. Actually, you know what? This white is the paint marker and the Signo, and this is white gouache. This polka
Oh,
dots, these polka
okay.
dots is white gouache.
Great. All right. So the words and watercolor is a good place to start.
Yeah, it's number one.
Excellent. Nice. Oh, yeah. I think that's the one I took. I think so. All right. So yeah, and actually Angela from the UK made a good point. She said, a lot of folks in the UK, even pre-pandemic, couldn't come over to the States to take your classes.
Of
Your
course.
online offerings are just been fantastic for them. So
My ladies from Australia, they usually pop in overnight because they're like, I think 16 hours ahead of us. So I have like people from all over the world in these classes, and that is I'm so blessed. That's such an honor that, I have people from all over the world coming and just participating with us. So
yeah.
that's cool.
Sorry, just a couple more questions. I think I know the answers to this, but let's ask them anyway. Your classes, someone asked what time they are. They're all pre-recorded, right?
Correct. So they are all self-paced, for you to do on your time, anytime. They don't expire. You can use the discussion. Every class has a discussion group,
Yep.
so you can participate there. And gosh, some of these people have been friends for years, and they're just great people. You guys are awesome. So yeah, anytime, your time, anytime.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. So I'm just, I'm sorry, the comments
Go
are.
ahead. That's fine.
All right. Yeah, I just think, yeah, I'm just seeing Mickey's popping in the links for folks because people are asking where to find you. So those are all there. The rose color again, was that opera
Okay.
rose?
Oh yeah, Opera Rose is
Yep.
one, but my favorite is quinacridone, and it's QUINACRIDONE, quinacridone. And it just Google it, and even if you misspell it, it will correct your spelling.
Yeah.
Quinacridone rose. It's just a very, very bright violet, kind of red, pink.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Okay. I think that's everything for the questions. Yes, Hansa yellow. Carol says, what's the yellow? It was the Daniel Smith Hansa yellow, right?
That's yellow. And there's light and there's medium. I use both.
Okay. Perfect. Well, this has bin so much fun. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to share with folks before we sign off?
No, I think that's it. I hope you join me because, like I said, the ArtSparks classes, it's a full class. It's usually the kind of class that offer for, around $40. And but this is a full class, and it was my gift to everyone to just kind of get through some of these, crummy days. And
Yeah.
I get, little messages all the time, people sharing their work, send me a picture, an email, and they're like,
Nice.
you've created a monster. And I'm like, yeah, I have. So,
That's
I'm
a good
okay with
thing.
that.
That's a good
It's
thing.
okay. So,
Well, we appreciate your gift to us during the pandemic. It's wonderful. And we will all continue to enjoy your work. And thank you so much for being with us,
well,
and
thanks
keep
for
creating.
having me.
And in a few months, well, where are we now? April. But I'm sure by the end of this year, we will see one another in person for sure, because we're really not that far
Absolutely.
away,
I know.
right? We're
It's
just maybe
nice.
6
Right.
hours, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think I
Oh, good.
told you actually, the book club had a retreat planned for New York State. Where were we going to meet? Ithaca. We were going to meet in Ithaca on March 13th last year. So,
Yeah, that's like 2 hours. So
yeah.
yeah,
So there you go. So when we do our meetup in Ithaca,
I'm there.
probably next year now,
I know. I
Joanne will
know.
be there hopefully. So all right. Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
I
thanks
bet you'll
for
see
having
lots of
me.
people in your ArtSparks class,
Oh,
because I
I hope so.
think you've created more monsters.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm okay with that.
Good.
Um,
All right. Well, take care, Joanne, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me,
All
Ellie.
right, thanks. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful week.
You
Take care.
too.
Bye.